Okay, hi, welcome back to the part two of the assessment lecture. Okay, so now we're going to continue with the next, point on general history taking. Okay, the next point that we need to ask on low vision patients is whether, about their registration status. So registration status here means what is whether they have actually applied or having any OKU card or not. Okay, in Malaysia, okay, if let's say the patient is classified to visually impaired or low vision, right, or blind, okay, they are eligible to get OKU card. Okay, and most low vision patient and visually impaired person, okay, usually they will have OKU card, but if let's say they're newly diagnosed and all that, right? Okay, this patient might not have any information related to this. So it is our responsibilities to actually have, to recommend to this patient regarding the registration status. So if let's say we get the information in the beginning during the history that the patient is not a OKU card holder or never applied, so during the management, we need to advise them. Okay, we need to advise them to get one or to apply one. So we need to guide them. So this is what I meant in the beginning. So, in when it comes to low vision care, right? As an optometrist, our job is not only correcting the vision. It's all about improving the quality of life. So one of the quality of life that gets better is through the, by possessing a, OKU card, because there are many benefits that is available, with the OKU card. So that is the reason. So we as an optometrist, we also have to, other than guide, prescribing them with magnifiers or glasses or giving therapy related to vision, we also see from all aspects how we can improvise the quality of life of the patient. So one of them is this OKU card application. So as an optometrist, you have to have a good knowledge regarding the OKU card application. Where do we apply? How do we, where we can ask the patient to apply? How do they apply? What are the, um requirement to be to apply that? So all that, as an optometrist, you should be aware of this. Okay. Next is education or and the employment of the patient. Okay, if let's say it's a school going kid, then we have to ask the parents, what kind of school that they're going. Okay, what kind of problem that they are having, that they're facing in the school in general. Okay, while for employment, we need to ask if let's say working adult, are they working? Okay, or they resigned, or are they working, or are they still working? Or if let's say they say they already resigned, okay, then you have to ask them, what is the cause of the resignation? Is it because related to vision? And then need to be asked on that. Why is because if let's say the patient is actually resigned the job because of the vision problem, then we need to actually, look deep into that, what caused them to resign the job, what kind of things that they could not do after they lose the vision. And we see how we can actually help them in getting back, help them in terms of the therapy or the management that we give, so that they will be able to still do the work again, maybe a simpler work. Okay, or we can advise them on how they can actually, still go to work and modify that. If let's say at one stage that the vision is very poor already, okay, they're almost blind, they cannot do anything, and they are rehab courses that is actually provided to this kind of patient, how to actually still make money, okay, by working. Okay, they can actually do work like, still can use computers, okay, with the voice over apps and all that, which can help them to still get a job like a clerk job. Okay, obviously they can't do the original job. If let's say they are a doctor, they can't do that job. Or if let's say they have been, some higher position in the management, they can't do that work, but at least they can do something for the survival. So that can be actually discussed, or suggested during the management. Similarly, for kids who are, studying in schools, we ask them, which schools are they going. So at the end of the during the management, we can give opinion to the parents. Okay, there are three types of school in Malaysia. There are normal school, blind school, integrated school, then we explain to them, based on the assessment findings and based on the complaint. Okay, we can actually advise the patient that, by telling them the pros and cons of each school, and then let them actually have idea of what's happening, what is the pros and cons, so that they can think, whether they still want to, you know, replace the student in different school, after listening to the pros and cons. So we give the information to the patient. Again, this is not related to vision, but we as an optometrist, we have to know this and we have to advise the patients, sorry, parents, regarding the schooling system. What are they eligible? If let's say even they are studying in a normal school, what are they eligible for? What are the things they still can request from the school to help them to still continue studying in a normal school? So there is no rules in Malaysia say that if let's say you are a OKU card holder because of visual impairment, you must go to blind school. There is no such rule. They still can go to a normal school if let's say they, if they prefer. So if let's say they're in normal school, it doesn't mean that that kid will be abandoned in that school. Okay, the Ministry of Education, they have like a special attention for this kind of kids that need to be provided by the school. Okay, so only upon request they can get the help. Okay, like for example, extension of examination hours for public exam. Okay, and also large printed materials for their exam papers. So all these will be given or granted upon request. So it's our job as an optometrist to tell the parents that these things are all exist. Please make utilize, please make use of it, rather than thinking that nothing can be done for this kid. Okay. Next is a present aids and spectacles. Okay, what are the current spectacles that the kid is using? Okay, that need to be asked, and where they get it from, who prescribed to them, and that question will be helpful, whether they're using a telescope, magnifier, who prescribed that. Okay, are they still doing good? If yes, then no issue. If let's say patient say no, it was good in the beginning, but it's not good now, then you ask them, to show you how they're using the device that is being prescribed to you. Sometimes it's the patient forgot that how to use the devices. Okay, or they might use it in a wrong way, so which will lead them to say that it was good in the beginning but not good. Okay, another uh, point is, it could be the progression of the disease that caused them not to use it again. Okay, so that also will be a so if let's say patient, when you check how patient use the device, if let's say they're using it correctly and then still not able to read properly, so when we want to do the management, right, rather than we start from the scratch in prescribing a magnifier or a telescope, we can actually modify that by if let's say the using procedure is wrong, then we correct them. If let's say the magnification is not enough for the magnifiers that is provided, maybe we can give them additional spectacles and see whether that helps them to still use the devices or not. Because certain magnifiers and telescope are not very cheap. It is very expensive. So patient might not be affordable to buy that again. Okay, so by doing this kind of adjustment or amendments, by but still using the existing spectacles, will be very good for the patient. Okay, and the next one is the general health and medication. Okay, what kind of tablets that they are taking or eating every day? Okay, that need to be asked. Okay, this is important uh, because we want to know whether there is any systemic disease that is actually affecting their vision or not. For example, the most prominent one is obviously is diabetic. If let's say the patient is having diabetic, then you have to ask how many tablets that they take per day, whether they're using tablets, whether they're taking tablets or injection. That gives a idea of how the glucose level is controlled by the patient. If let's say they're still taking one medication in one day, that means they're still new, the vision is still good. If let's say they're taking 3 pills, three for three meals, okay, in a day, then that shows that it might be a bit serious. If let's say patient is using insulin, that is even worse. Okay, so that means the insulins, when they are using insulin. Okay, so that gives a clue that how bad is the systemic disease, which we can expect some changes at the back of the eye. If as a patient is already using insulin and the glucose level is not under control, we can expect some changes in the back of the eye. And if let's say the patient say that one day it's good, another day the vision is not good, then it is because of the diabetic. So basically, through the history taking, at least we know that this patient is actually having diabetic retinopathy maybe. Okay, just by asking questions, we haven't do assessment. And this patient, if let's say this particular patient, I mean the case that we're discussing, having um, diabetic not controlled, right? If let's say we want to do a fundoscopy examination, if let's say the patient is having glare problem, we were not able to actually do the assessment. But based on the complaint and also the history taking with the point for the general health and medication, we can get a clue that this patient might have diabetic retinopathy, even we haven't assessed them. Okay, so this is the reason why we have to do the history taking on low vision patient in detail so that we don't do unnecessary things. Okay, for them. So that is general health and medication. And the last one is the why did the patient make appointment? Okay, what is the reason? Okay, a low vision patient comes to optometrist for many reasons. One could be the ophthalmologist referred to the clinic, okay, to do some assessment because they don't have the instrument over there. Like, usually they don't have Jarum. They only have Humphrey and Amsler. Okay, certain patient, Humphrey and they cannot perform visual field test on Humphrey because the vision is very poor. Okay, and Amsler doesn't show anything wrong. So because they cannot do Humphrey, then they have to do Jarum. Usually they don't have the Jarum. Okay, so when they don't have the Jarum, they have to refer to somebody else. Usually ophthalmologists, they don't have contrast sensitivity chart. So when they don't have certain assessment tool and they're not able to predict certain diagnosis, they might send it to us for us to do the assessment. So that one is very easy. You just do the assessment that is required, but that is requested by the ophthalmologist, and then write a report, send them back. Okay. Number two is if let's say the doctor already tried many methods, but nothing could help, and then they are referring them to the low vision clinic, see how we could help them in terms of the complaints that they have related to distance and near, whether to assess whether any devices can be prescribed or not. Okay, so for that patient, very easy, you just do the basic assessment. Okay, and then we see what kind of devices that helps them. If it is helping them, then we just write that we tested on this, and we found that this is the best at helping the patient. Okay, and then for telescope, although there is a need, but when we prescribe to the patient is not happy in using telescope. Okay, so we couldn't prescribe anything. So just write a report and then send back them to the ophthalmologist. Okay, another type is this, they come because there is a sponsor to sponsor them with some devices. So they are coming here to do the assessment and get the prescription. So for that one also the similar one. Just need to write the report that is requested, okay, by the sponsor, and write it down, give back to them. Okay, and then select the devices and then write down the prescription that best suits the patient, and then give back the form. So it's also another type. Another type of patients that comes to our clinic is because they want to get a recommendation letter to the school. Okay, after they go to, for example, the kid, go to standard 1 to normal school. So after the parents monitor for 1 month, and then they list down what are the problems that, the kid face in the school. So based on that, we will, they will come, for us to write a recommendation letter. So after the discussion of all this, we will have idea what is the problem that the kid is having. And then we will write a recommendation letter based on the findings that we kept. Okay, so based on the finding, if let's say the distance VA is very poor, okay, or near VA is very poor, so we can write a recommendation letter that please provide this and this for his, to aid him in learning in the school. So can just write a recommendation letter and give to the parents. Okay, so that is the reason why we need to know why did the patient make appointments so that we can actually manage them accordingly, okay, without doing unnecessary tests. Okay, so that is the general history taking points. There are 9 points that compulsorily need to ask all the patients so that we'll have an idea of wholesome what is their vision problem that they're having and how that is actually affecting them. Okay. And now we move to the next slide. New. Second. Okay. So once you're done with the general history taking, so the next one is going to be the task related history. Give me 1 minute. Let me check if I say the recording is still happening. Okay. So the task related history, okay, basically, as I mentioned, to ask patient what they do from morning until they go to bed. And also go to bed, but we want to know what are the problems that they face since they start losing their vision. Okay, that should be the focus of the task related history. Okay, there are many ways of doing the task related history. Okay, one way is asking all the activities that a person will do from the moment they wake up from the bed until they go to the bed on weekdays, on weekends, and also in familiar places and unfamiliar places. If let's say they have to stay in some, when they go for traveling and all that. So what are the things that they actually face? Another way is by component by component. So like this one, right? This is the component based one. Okay. So component by component means, what kind of problem that they face while, they move around. Okay. When they view at distance. Okay. Their daily living activities, near tasks. Okay. Lighting condition, their job related tasks. So it can be any. Okay. So anyway, but make sure that you extract all the information. Okay. If let's say a school going kid, what is the problem that they have, in the school, where are they sitting in the classroom, when they play, games in the school, outdoor activities. Okay, what are the things that they face? Is it glass like bothering them? Or if let's say the vision is very poor, when the ball is passed to them, not able to see, whether can buy food from canteen by themselves by, giving money or not. So anything, taking bus by themselves, or, who send them to school. So every single thing, once they come back, when do homework, what are the difficulties that they face? Uh, if let's say going outdoor to play playground, what are the problems that they face? All these need to be asked. So this is the daily routine. On weekends, if let's say they go to mall, okay, when they want to take escalator, is it difficult? So this is a question for an 8-year-old kid. If let's say it's a 40, 45, the question is going to be changed according to the age and also the job that they are doing. If let's say teacher, then the question is related, it's going to be focus on teacher. If let's say that person is as a housewife, then it's going to be different, type of question they ask. If let's say it's a civil engineer who goes site, construction areas, then their question is going to be different. So everybody is going to be having individual type of, way of we ask them the task related history. Okay, but the output that we are expecting is by end of the session, okay, we get all the information. okay, on what are the problems that they face in daily life. Okay. Now we move on to the procedure of uh, history taking. Okay. So how do now you already know what are the points that need to be asked, and what is the reason why we need to do that and all. Okay. Now, how do we actually perform this history taking? First of all, you have to greet the patient. Okay, as I mentioned, just now, tap on their shoulder, ask, hi, how are you? My name is Indira, and what's your name? Okay, where are you from? Okay, together with me today, there are two more colleague of mine will be interviewing you, asking a few questions before we move to the assessment. Okay, they're also like another three-person in the room who's listening to the conversation with us, who's going to do assessment later on you. Okay, so explain everything. Why do we need to mention this? Okay, because not all low vision patient able to see. Maybe if you're sitting 1 meter away, then they can see. If let's say you're further away from 1 meter, they don't know whether people are there or not, and they have all the rights to know who's actually listening to the conversation. So that is the reason why you have to let them know. Okay, so greet and introduce yourself and introduce everyone. And then when you ask questions, okay, first start with the easy question, as I mentioned. Okay, what's your name? Where are you from? Where do you stay? How do you come to our clinic? How do you got to know about our clinic? Okay, so all that question, should be asked first. Okay, and then this is the time that you build the rapport with the patient. Okay, so after you get all the information, one additional questions that usually we ask low vision patients is, what kind of house they stay? Okay, is it a single story, double story, apartment, or bungalow? Okay, why is because different housing area has a different lifestyle. Okay, if let's say it's an apartment, okay, or they have to take lift every day. If let's say a single story, no issue. If let's say it's a double story, maybe the room, the bedroom is upstairs. So that is the reason why we need to ask them, what kind of house they say and what is their job currently. And so that gives us a idea. Oh, this patient is civil engineer and they go to okay to do work. Then if let's say they go to site, then there will be many obstacles that they have to face, which you can ask during the task related history. Okay. Next is normal history taking. As I mentioned just now, the general history taking, the 9 points. Okay. After do that, and then comes the next one is the task related history, as I explained just now. And after you complete that, okay, then you take some time, okay, to write down all the complaints that the patient is having, okay, by highlighting or writing down. Then you take a break from the patient. Okay, we are done with this, daily activities question. Okay, we want to take a 2 minutes break before we can conclude our, interview session. Okay, so then you and your friends sit, okay, and then write down, rewrite, or you can just highlight what are the problems that the patient is having. And then once you're done, then you conclude to the patient. Okay, hi, Mr. X, you came to the clinic with this complaints, and then read out all the complaints. Okay, only the complaints. Okay, you came with a problem of blurry vision at distance, blurry vision at near, and then you feel like you can't recognize faces, and then you can't differentiate colors. So you just no need to give the details, but the main one. And then you ask patient, okay, do you want to actually, let me know if, let's say, I understood any of your complaint wrongly, or if I missed out any complaint. Then patient will actually say, whether they will add in complaint or they will say that, no, you understood this wrongly. So this gives a clear picture to us before we start the assessment of the complaint that the patient has. So the focus of the assessment is going to be on based on the list of complaints. We actually plan our assessment. Okay, that is number one. So that is the purpose of doing this conclusion, to plan. Number two is to actually validate or check with the patient whether we understood everything correctly or not. Okay, So that gives a clarity for us to move on to the assessment. Okay. So that is the procedure of how to perform history taking on the patient. So once you already list down, patient has already commented that I did another 2 complaint, and then you say that okay, thank you so much. Now we will continue with the assessment, and then you start with the assessment. Okay. Okay. So what is the assessment that usually we'll start with? Okay. Yes, we do visual acuity, but before that we do this. We measure the quality of life of that patient when they come first to our clinic. Okay. So how do we measure the quality of life is, okay, using a questionnaire. So it is a questionnaire. It is a validated questionnaire that is used worldwide, not only in Malaysia. You go to any country, okay, we are using this low vision quality of life questionnaire. Okay, why do the patient need to perform this LVQOL questionnaire? Because it actually gives an idea that, what kind of quality of life that the patient is currently having. Okay. So after that, after we give treatment or management or therapy or any devices at the end of session, then they go back and then they try the devices. Maybe after 3 to 6 months time, we do the questionnaire again. Okay, so before treatment and after treatment, if let's say the score is better after 3 to 6 months, okay, that shows that the treatment or the advices that you have given to the patient is effective. If let's say after 3 to 6 months, the quality of life or the score is the same, it shows that, with your therapy or devices, nothing is making the quality of life of that patient is better. So that is the reason why that we do this LVQOL questionnaire, okay, to at least identify what is the quality of life that the patient is living. Okay, so this is how it looks like, the questionnaire. Very easy. If let's say, okay, if let's say patient not able to read because the poor vision, you can just read out the question to them and ask them to read. And then you circle for them and then you accumulate that, and then you record down in the recording form, or you attach this LVQL questionnaire in the patient's file, so that when they come back after 3 months or 6 months, after 1 year, we will do again, and then we will compare. That will give us idea of how much the therapy or training that is, or management that is provided, is actually making things better for the patient. And this LVQL questionnaire is consistent, reliable, and sensitive, okay, in measuring the quality of life of visually impaired person. Okay, it can be used in clinical setting, okay, to provide information on the functional vision measure. Okay, so additional to the task related history, this questionnaire also will give you idea of where the patient is actually having problem in terms of daily activities also. Okay, and this is only take about 5 to 10 minutes for patient to perform this. Even if you read for them or they read by themselves, doesn't matter. It only takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete. So it's not a burden for the patient to actually do this questionnaire. So it's just a 5-10 minute job. After you do this, then you can straight away start the other assessment. So what is the purpose of this LVQL questionnaire? Number one, compare with normal performance or with accepted standard. Okay, because there is a range of the score, whether they are doing good or whether they are not doing good, accepted standard or not. Okay, so there is a range. If let's say they fall into the normal range, that shows that the patient is not having a big problem. If let's say their quality of life is like very poor compared to the normal value, that shows that the patient is having a severe problem. So that gives an idea of this, what's happening to the patient's vision. Number two is baseline to monitor the progression. As I mentioned earlier, they come first time, we measure the LVQL, then after 3 months or 6 months, we're going to actually monitor the patient again. so that we know what is the progression. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse or stagnant? We'll have an idea. Rather than verbally actually asking that, we can have like a proper systematic way to identify what is the problem that the patient is having. Just give me 1 minute. Wait, let me check if, let's say, the recording is happening or not. Wait, Okay, the recording is happening. Okay, I shall continue. Okay. 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 So, uh, okay, so that is baseline to monitor the progression. Okay, the next one is to quantify patient's impression on visual performance. Okay, so by actually answering the questions, we know what is the visual performance of the patient and in what aspect that they're actually having problem. Okay, because if you see the questionnaire, they have asked particularly for reading. So we know if, let's say, we missed that in the task related history, we still can identify that through the questionnaire. And also early detection and diagnosis. If, let's say, we do this as a routine in the low vision clinic, right? Okay, if, let's say, the patient only come for monitoring only, okay, because we already prescribed them in a magnifier, but they just come yearly once or 6 months once for monitoring purpose. So when they come, if, let's say, we do this LVQL every time they come to the clinic, right? If, let's say, we see some drops in the LVQL score, that gives an idea that something is not right with the vision. Okay, and based on the aspect that the patient is actually scoring lesser compared to the previous one, we can focus on vision assessment related to that. Okay, so that will actually, make things, easier for us to do the early detection and diagnosis. And next one is assessment of the benefit of the treatment. Okay, assessment of the benefit of treatment is if, let's say, you give some treatment to the patient. Okay, doesn't matter whether it's training or magnifier or anything to the patient. Okay, and then if, let's say, patients start using that in their at home or in their workplace, and then when they come back, okay, when we perform LVQL again and we found that the score is actually getting better, that means the daily task that they're performing is actually becoming better. Okay, that shows that the treatment that we have given is actually, is working for the patient. So that gives us a, idea that this treatment is actually working. So it gives a, not an abstract, way of actually assessing this. This is a concrete, you know, concrete way of assessing whether the treatment that we provided to them or management that we have provided to them is working or not. Okay, and next is, it is actually like another tool of predicting the visual function of everyday task, similar to the task related history that we do. Okay, the task related history is more like, it is like a verbal one, while this questionnaire is going to be the can be actually quantified. Okay, so that is the difference between that two. So these are the purposes of the LVQL measurement through the with the questionnaire. Okay. Okay, next we move to the visual acuity taking. Okay, visual acuity taking is very important uh, in any optometry assessment. That should come the first. Okay, So visual acuity taking, okay, one thing that we have to remember when it comes to visual acuity taking, okay, the chart that we use is going to be different, okay, than what we use in the normal clinic. And it doesn't mean that usually we will use Snellen chart, okay. It doesn't mean that Snellen chart is not good, okay, but we do have a better chart that can give a better findings, for this visually impaired person. So there is no like a good or bad, but the chart that we will be using a more standardized chart. Okay, that is what I wanted to say. So this visual acuity measurement for distance and near, okay, the chart is going to be different. And also because we are using a different chart, and obviously the distance of measurement, how do we record down, is going to be different. So that's what we are going to look at. How to, what are the charts that is used, and what is the how to do the measurements. Okay, that's what we're going to look next in the lecture. Okay, so standard Snellen charts, it is not the most suitable test, but it is designed to measure normal or near normal acuity. If you see here, the chart is actually 6/16. Okay, so and also the alphabets that is actually given that is used, it is actually to measure the normal or near normal acuity. Just give me a moment. So the research that was conducted when this Snellen chart was developed is using this normal or near normal acuity people. Okay, while there are charts that is developed specifically for visually impaired person. Okay, so there are 4 charts that is actually developed specially for visually impaired person. Okay, one is Feinblum chart. Okay, Sloan chart, Killer A system chart. Okay, so these charts are, and also Bailey-Lowy chart. Okay, this Sloan and Killer A chart, A system, the charts use a constant size progression from row to row, but number of letters and their spacing varies at each level, like Snellen chart. Okay, the size is constantly reducing from one line to another line. Okay, like for example, 6, this is just an example, 660, 650, 640, 630, 620, 610. Okay, so it actually, that is the progression, okay, row to row, but number of letters in chart, it is not similar. Okay, maybe the 660 might have 1 letter, 652 letter, 634 letters, so they can have like varies of number of letters. Okay, and also the spacing between each level is not similar. Okay, spacing between the letters in each row, it is not constantly reducing. Okay, for this Sloan and Killer A system. But this Bailey-Lowy chart, it is actually the most standard visual acuity chart, which is actually, it is already verified uh, um all the lackings in other charts that is created earlier. Okay, they have the similar number of letters in each line. Okay, the progression, okay, in terms of the size of the letter is actually constant for each line, and also the spacing between letters in each line progressively reduced by line. Okay, so that's why this is a standard chart. Okay, so this is how a Feinblum chart looks like. So you can see at the bottom here, yeah. So it is it is meant for visually impaired person. Okay, so modified by using numbers and logarithmic progression from 20/1000 to 2020. Okay, so the one that we have in Snellen chart is 20/200 only. That means the 20/1000, that means the numbers are in a very big size, because this visually impaired person, right, the visual acuity is very poor. Okay, so rather than moving them, from 6 meter to 5 meter to 4 meter, they can have this Feinblum chart. Okay, just need to measure at 3 meters. Okay, and they can get the findings. Okay, so they have uniform of 5 rows, 5 numbers each from 2100 to 2020, but this is 100 to 2020. But the before that, whatever that is higher than that, okay, they don't have that. Okay, and notations are given in feet and m units with equivalent Snellen fraction of 10 foot test distance. So the value that is given in the site, right, they have feet notation, m notation, Snellen fraction. Okay, all that can be found here. So if let's say you want to record it in Snellen fraction, so you can just take Snellen one. If let's say you want to record it m unit, also can be found here. If let's say you want feet unit, also can be found here. So it is like up to you what you want to record. Okay, so that is Feinbaum chart. Next is Bailey-Lowy chart. Okay, so Bailey-Lowy chart is the standard chart, and there are two types of chart. One is 4-meter chart, and then another one is 3-meter chart. So we have both 4-meter charts and 3-meter charts. We're going to look at what is the difference between this 4-meter and 3-meter chart. Okay, before we going to look in detail what is the difference between this 4-meter and 3-meter chart, okay, we have to know what is the advantage of this chart. Okay, this one is known to be the Lockma chart. Okay, so the advantage of this Lockma chart is can be used at different working distances. Okay, like Snellen chart, you have to move the patient. Okay, if let's say patient not able to read at 6 meter, then you move the chart, by move the patient by 1 meter and 1 meter. But this Bailey-Lowy chart or the Lockma chart, right? The Lockma chart comes in a panel where you can move the panel. Okay, you can move the panel, closer to the patient. So you can maintain the patient but moving the chart. And then the next one is the chart contains 5 letters in a line. Okay, equal numbers of letters in each line. Okay, so every line contains 5 letters. Okay, so as I mentioned, it is standard, not like Snellen chart. 660 is 1 letter, and then 636 is 2 letter. So this one Lockma chart, they have 5 letters per line and equivalent line and letters spacing throughout. That means the size of this letter, right, it progressively reduce, okay, in a standard way. And also the spacing between the letters also reduce the same space. Okay, so that is the reason why it is standard. And all letters have equal legibility and standard ratio of size between the adjacent rows. That means, okay, this row is 1 Lockma, 0.9 Lockma, 0.7 Lockma, 6, 0.6, 0.5, and so it actually differs by 0.1 lock units. Okay, and the calculation, okay, so and the calculation is slightly different. Okay, so if let's say the patient is, this is 1 Lockma, right? If let's say the patient is able to read, okay, all these 5 letters, then it's good, 1 Lockma. Okay, if let's say patient able to read these 5 letters, but with the one mistake, okay, D, F, R, K, but the last letter patient not able to make it. Each of these letter stands for 0.02 Lockma, any rows. Okay, if let's say one mistake is made, so what you have to write is how to do the row read by the patient, 1 Lockma, number of mistake 1. Okay, each letter represents 0.02 Lockma. Then you get a value of 1.02 Lockma. So this is the basic calculation for both 4-meter and 3-meter. Okay, so this is how the calculation is done for the Lockma chart for distance. Okay, so we also have other charts, okay, like low vision Leah numbers chart. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Although this looks like a reading chart, it is not a reading chart. Okay, why do they have this string with an occluder? Is because this low vision Leah number chart, the measurement is done at 1 meter. So this string is actually 1 meter long, and this occluder is if let's say you are the examiner, you're holding the chart, so your patient will be sitting 1 meter away from you, and they will be like, holding the occluder and make sure that the string is straight. So that will give them the correct 1 meter distance. So that is the reason why the string comes with the occluder. Okay, it is designed for examination of severely visually impaired children and adults, because even at 1 meter, the letters, the numbers here in big size. Okay, so that we will be able to get, okay, we can do counting finger, we can do hand movement recording, but that doesn't gives you a value. So if let's say patient comes, after, 3 months or 6 months, if you are still doing the hand movement and counting fingers, you won't be able to know how the progression is. But if let's say you're able to get some, VA of the patient, then you will know that how much it has actually, reduced or gets better within the 6 months time. So that is the reason why this low vision Leah numbers chart is actually developed. Okay, so these largest optotypes are 6/1000, and this is not the last. This is not 6/6. Okay, if you flip the card, right, 6/6 you can find. So the chart is like, two-sided. Okay, you can find it, at the back. So that will be the 6/6. So the test comes with a 1 meter cord. This is the cord, okay, to maintain the proper testing distance. Okay, so that is the reason why they have this cord. Okay, and also we do have good light EDTRS chart, Leah symbol, 15 lines. Okay, the chart comes with a cue card, response key. Okay, this is for kids. Okay, so this comes, for kids, and it is similar to the Lokma chart, just that it is actually, in the Leah symbol. Okay, similar, everything is similar to Lokma chart. Additionally, they have this cue card. Okay, it's a 3-meter chart. Okay, and we do also have low vision letter chart, similar to the low vision, numbers chart, the 1 meter chart, right? Similarly, we have in the alphabeticals also. Okay, that one is in the numbers. Okay, this one is in the letters. Okay, so the chart contains Sloan letters in the Lakma increments. Okay, so these are the Sloan letters. Okay, it ranges from this is for, they are two-sided. One side is for distance, another side is for near. Okay, so because it is, one-sided, right? So the 6/6 you can find it here. So you will go up to here. Okay, might be up to 6/18 or something. Then 6/6 you can find it here. Okay, so this is the one page. Another, when you flip the card, then you will have the reading one. So this is for the reading, measurement. Okay, when 1 meter, when you use this for 1 meter, okay, it ranges from 20/1000, okay, to 20/100, and then this extends to 20/20. Okay, so it covers from 20/1000 to 20/20, and it comes together with a cord and occluder, okay, to maintain the 1 meter distance when you use the distance chart. But when you use the neo chart, we don't use the cord. Okay, we don't use the cord because we do the measurement for neo based on the habitual reading distance of the patient. Okay, we don't use the 1 meter standard. That 1 meter cord is only for the distance chart. Okay, if let's say after you do everything, still not able to, even with the, the number chart and also the letter chart, still not able to do, the measurements. Okay, still patient not able to see. That's when we go to the rudimentary vision measurement. So this rudimentary vision measurement includes the counting fingers, hand movement, and light perception. Okay, so this will be a very last option when after you use all the charts, when you can't get any VA, that's when we go to this. Otherwise, try to get the VA of the patient. Okay. Okay, now we move on to the procedure. Okay, so the procedure, okay, how to do the VA measurement procedure. Okay, first, always start with the better seeing eye first. Okay, with the habitual correction. Okay, so if let's say the patient is corrected, okay, they are having a glasses for distance, wear the glasses and then put a Halbert clip, and then you do the measurement for the better seeing eye. Then after that, we do the pinhole measurement for the same eye. So occlude the bad eye, measure the good eye. Then after the measurement is done, okay, then do a pinhole measurement. Then move to the worst eye, okay, and then pinhole measurement, and then both eye VA measurement is recorded down. Okay, although it looks very simple, but it will take some time for a patient to respond to, correctly for this. Okay. Okay, now we move to the near VA measurement. Measurement also the same. We don't use the Hoya or Esilo charts, okay, because it's not standard, and also they're up to, if I'm not mistaken, up to N14. And I'm not sure, but I think if it is not mistaken, it's N14. And most of the low vision patients, they are actually worse than N14. Okay, their VA is worse than N14, so we can't do measurement with the usual chart. So need to have a special chart for that. So what are the special charts? We want to look at it later. Okay, and one thing that you have to remember, this near visual acuity does not correlate with the distance VA. Low vision patients, okay, it is not like a normal patient. When the distance VA is affected, the near VA will be affected too. This one, no. If let's say the distance is affected, the near VA might be very good, normal. Okay, can be so. Okay, sometimes VA is very, whether the near vision is bad or good based on the distance VA. Okay, okay, because why? Because the reading acuity, drops, could be due to pupil constriction, media opacity. There are many other factors that is actually affecting the vision that makes them to have a poorer VA than their what is expected based on the distance VA. Okay, and another one measurement, usually when it comes to near VA measurement, okay, the measurement is up to uh, the, only the VA recording. Okay, so only a VA recording. Okay, but in low vision clinic, we also need to record the reading speed. Okay, so reading speed, okay, how many words that patient can read in 1 minute, that is reading speed. Okay, and it is compulsorily be measured, okay, as low reading impact understanding and frustrating for the patient. Okay, for example, if let's say patient come, right, you do the habitual VA measurement. Okay, you give them the chart, you measure the VA. Okay, good eye, bad eye, both eye, done. Okay, then when you actually, after you do assessment, you think that this patient might benefit from the magnifier. So when you let them try the magnifier, right? Okay, patient improve by a few lines. Okay, achieve the target that they want to achieve. Okay, achieve the target. So patient obviously for the first time, when you are giving them magnifier, when they, from not able to see anything, now they're able to read until, the smallest line, they will be very excited. Okay, they will say that, oh, this is good. But in reality, if let's say the reading speed is actually very, very slow, okay, with the magnifier, after we prescribe them, they bring back home, they try, and then when they, they try, right, then only they will face the reality that, oh, I'm reading word by word. Okay, every time I read one word, then I have to move to the next word. This is very tiring and frustrating. Okay, so that is the reason why we have to do a reading speed measurement to find out, okay, whether the patient will be comfortable using this magnifier or not in future. Okay, if let's say they're not comfortable, okay, if let's say the reading speed is, reading speed is actually, drop a lot, okay, then we need to consider whether to prescribe this device or not. Or maybe we can think of some other devices. Okay. So this is very important because when prescribing magnifiers, right, the field of view is going to be constricted, the image is going to be magnified. So patient might be excited only, initially because, they see something smaller. But when you use it for prolonged period time, right, it's not going to be exciting. So that is the reason why we need to measure the reading speed. Okay, with that, I will end this part of the vision assessment. Okay, when I come back next, then we will, look at the different charts and what type of charts that is available. Okay.